Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Burgle Bros Future Flip from Fowers Games. Burgle Bros is a 1 to 4 player game of stealth. You're trying to hack things. You're basically trying to work your way through 2 floors of a building while attempting to gather various program cards in order to hack the various robot thingies that are, not the robots, the enemies that are getting in your way, and then from there, eventually taking down the mainframe and then escaping. That's your basic goal over here. The way the game is going to play out, oh wait, before we do that, first of all, this channel is sponsored by Allplay, more about them at the end of this video. The way the game is going to play out is on your turn you're going to take actions with your hackers over here. Well, this one's called a hacker. It's your characters over here. The way that works is you have 3 actions, at least while you're on your disguise size. So for example, my first action, I might peek at this tile and see if it's worth going to. I'm just going to spend an action to peek. We're not going to actually go there. We're just going to spend an action to peek. And we got this one over here. We are on the first floor. Each tile has a rule as to how it gets placed out. And this one, to enter, requires an additional action for each worker here, which is a good spot that I peeked at, I guess. It's good to know. We'll adapt. We'll figure it out later. Anyways, then I'll peek this way because I really just don't want to go. Right now we're kind of safe. I'm going to peek this way for my second action, and we're going to take another tile, placing it out of the bag. Ooh, it's an alarm tile. Starting this side, it's a checkpoint. We're not going to go there yet. We'll figure it. Oh, because I could get stuck. If I go here, I could get stuck. And then for our last action, we're just going to step forward over here and see what happens. Sometimes you can get bounced back, but other times we have a camera. Lovely. We're going to go ahead and roll a die. We're going to take our extra die. Where is our extra die? I don't know where it is. We will roll one of these dice, and we'll just put it back. We're going to roll the die. We got a 6. What are the chances? That is absolutely terrible. That was terrible over here. Basically, a 6 is going to trigger an alarm. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the destination tile of the enemy over here, and we're going to trigger an alarm there. They're going to gain a suspicion, and they're going to head our way. Because now our turn is done, we spent our 3 actions, they're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're heading to our tile. The good news is we are currently disguised, which means right now we're only going to lose 2 cool. If we walk into their tile, we lose 1 cool. If they walk into our tile, we lose 2 cool. Once you get to your other side, once you effectively switch from being in disguise to being in your gear, you're going to have stealth tokens, and you lose 1 stealth token regardless of which way it goes. That's the way that works. It was a bad first turn. That's a game reset kind of first turn as far as how bad that went for us. But now we're going to draw a tile for its new destination because it needs a new place to go for that AI. So we're going to place this tile over here. It's now heading towards C2 on a future turn. Kind of limited our first turn, but like whatever. That's the basic way a turn plays out. You play your actions over here in order to slowly wander around. The reason you're wandering around is twofold. The first reason is you need to find the mainframe, because ultimately you cannot win the game until you find the mainframe, so it's important that amongst all these tiles, you at some point, it could be your second turn, it could be your last turn, you have to find the mainframe from this bag. The second reason is because you need to find the workers. There are workers in this building. They're going to start standing up over here, and you can spend one of your actions. So for example, on my first turn, I might do a charm action. I will pull an adjacent worker my way, either on your tile or an adjacent. I will draw a charm card, and look at that, I now have this card. I will pull the second worker. You can do multiple charms with a single action, and I'm going to pull another card. Look at that, I have this, but I did get a stop drawing, and if you're disguised, he's going to gain 1 suspicion. So that's a stop drawing card. But I have this symbol, which is not actually helpful right now, because right now I'm trying to get blue and green. If I get a handful of program cards with blue and green, I can take him out. When that happens, you're going to replace them with a higher level, a red program card, and when you take out that one, which requires 3, you're going to replace them with an Omega Protocol. When you've done that for both floors, so when you have the Omega Protocols on both floors, which basically requires taking out 4 guards to be able to get there, first of all, these guys cannot be hacked. They will chase you down forever. But also, once you take both these out, and once you find the mainframe tile, you can now take out the mainframe by getting all of those together. 6 different symbols combined will take out the mainframe. You still haven't won when that happens. At that point, you can then go back to the air duct and escape through the air duct with both your players, or all your players if you're playing multiplayer accounts, and then effectively you win the game. Otherwise, if you die along the way, which means you first lose your cool, you upgrade to your gear side, then you lose your disguises. If that happens, then you're dead and you lose the game instead. That's a kind of general short overview. There's a bunch of other things. The starting gear your characters have, this decks of gear. When you kill enemies, you're going to get decks of gear that can help you out in different ways. You're going to be discovering tiles with all these kinds of abilities on them. They each have a rule as to how they start, but then after that, they might swap, they might not. You have a ton of abilities going on in the game. You're going to eventually find a floor tile. So you see this action here. here, that's a floor symbol. Once you have 3 floor symbols, you're going to place your floors in between the floors of those 2 things, which is how you move back and forth, although there's also abilities and other things that'll help you move back and forth between the floors. But ultimately, your main objective is find the mainframe, find disgruntled workers, talk to disgruntled workers to get the program cards, use those program cards to take down the sysops until they upgrade, then use them to take down the mainframe, and then escape, and then you win the game. That is a short version of how you play Burgle Bros 3 from Fowers Games. With that said, let's dive into my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like. The game, it's a solid solo and cooperative game, in which you are going to be trying to figure out what the enemy's doing, because you have knowledge to an extent. I know that this guy is heading here. And then after the knowledge, you have the risk assessment. From there, it could be heading anywhere, but there's a decent chance that I'm safe, at least on this first turn. Unless, because when he goes 1-2, we're going to draw another card, and now he's going to C3, that's 3, he gets another card, and then he's going down to C4, so he's going to head right back over here, and I'm going to hit again. Depending on how the cards get drawn, you have different degrees of what bad things are going to happen. And the game gives you both the risk assessment aspect of, I know the board, I can play it safe, or I can push out a little bit, because ultimately the enemy, even if you stay completely safe and out of their sight, they are slowly going to be drawing cards that are going to give them suspicion. And that's going to make your life harder. So you really are playing this delicate balance of trying to run out the clock and play safe, but also being mindful that bad things will eventually happen, so you have to take calculated risks as you play the game to hopefully get out alive, well, to hopefully find the cards, take out the sysops, then take out the mainframe, and get out alive. And there's a nice tension of perfect prediction of what the enemy's going to do versus that risk assessment, and that combined gives you a solid degree of strategy with a little bit of chaos, with the tools to survive a little bit of chaos, but not so much chaos in the game. Because the game is fairly well balanced, although there's also difficulty escalation. If you want to modify the difficulty and make your life a little harder, you can do so. But overall, it's got a nice balance of strategy and luck and a whole lot of tension in the game. It also gives you abilities. You have abilities on your characters, you have abilities on their upgraded side as well when they go to the gear, you have abilities on your starting gear, you have a whole deck full of abilities, and these cards, you're going to get them from various tiles, but also from taking out the sysops. These will give you tools to get yourself out of hard positions, and also just feel powerful as you try to manage it all. So it just gives you this kind of, again, it gives you an objective. The objective is pretty clear. Find the things you need to do to take out the mainframe, and then it gives you all the various tools to figure it out. It has these different layouts of the board that are going to force you to examine things differently depending on how the boards are structured each time, and then also has different enemies that have different combinations of abilities, the kill codes, what's going to happen when they get too much suspicion, all of that. It just gives you a good mix of an objective. The objective is pretty standard, although there are multiple different mainframes as well for that variety of experience. Because like this mainframe over here, this is a starting and training one. Players start with +1 stealth. They recommend it for your first game. You could. I think the game is, well, it depends. I guess I've played Burgle Bros before, the original. I played Burgle Bros 2, so I walked in knowing that I didn't start with training. I started with other ones already to just enhance the experience. But there are difficulty modifications from the mainframe, as well as rules adjustments to really give you that ideal experience. But overall, it's powers, abilities, strategy, and luck, and a whole lot of tension, and it really manages to have things going tough down to the wire. Like, you win or you lose, but it comes down to a handful of what you have left as far as your cool and suspicion. As far as things I don't like in the game, the biggest issue I have with it personally is that sometimes it can devolve a little bit into repetitive busy work as you kind of wait for the workers to refresh or find more workers. Basically, you're drawing cards at the end of each turn that are either going to give suspicion or possibly refresh workers and move them. And sometimes the game comes down to just waiting for that to happen so you can talk to more workers and draw more cards. You need certain combinations, like, oh my gosh, I need green to take down that enemy and I'm just not drawing green cards. And you could swap cards between players on the right tiles. Sometimes it's beneficial, but sometimes you're just not drawing cards between the players. And so sometimes it does feel like the balance of strategy and luck and all those things that I talked about, well, sometimes it does feel like you're kind of running out the clock till you can get to the things you want. If you've played games like Pandemic, sometimes that kind of happens. You're just like, I need one more blue to be able to solve the cure. This happens as well, except it's not a cure, it's a program card and you're taking down a robot, but the general concept is the same. Sometimes you're doing busy work, running out of the clock, playing it safe. Those are less fun moments in the game. As far as what I can see others not like in the game, the biggest thing is going to be sometimes, like you saw it happen here, this is my first turn of the game, and suddenly just went, I drew a camera card, I played it safe over here, then I drew a camera, then I went into the camera tile because that's what I chose to do. I had a 1 in 6 chance of triggering the alarm, and he happened to be close enough, so my first turn, things just went south heavily. And honestly, on a first turn, not a big deal. You want to call it a loss, mark it a loss, and start the game again. It doesn't really hurt anyone. But that happens halfway through the game, you have those moments where things just like, oh my gosh, what are the chances that that happened? And the answer is, it happened, you have to deal with it. So as much as there's a lot of strategy in this game as trying to play it out and trying to manage the floors, manage when the guards move, there are times when things just go south on you and your entire game that was planned well, you're going to lose because that 1 in 17 chance happened. 1 in 17 is very specific. That 1 in 20 chance happened, and you now got caught with your last stealth, and it's over. It's over, and you're done. That does happen in the game. That's the biggest potential concern. The other potential concern that definitely can be a factor is this is a kind of game that is subject to, like, alpha playering. That's the concept, if you're not familiar, that players will sit there and say, oh, you should do this because that's how we'll survive. So effectively, one player can run the game for the other players with advice of being like, oh, no, if you stop there, then he'll attack you. And the problem with alpha gaming is it's a real concept where if we're playing together and I see something that's going to hurt us and you don't, should I say nothing? That is a complicated balance to manage. I've enjoyed this game at 1 and 2 players. I think that's my ideal player count, 1 or 2. And even with 2, you really want to be playing with somebody who I think that kind of doesn't take... Here's my problem. There's a difference between trying to give people tons of advice. So for example, when you're sitting here and playing a game and I try to min-max different risk assessments, that's a little more complicated because like, hey, let players play the game, let players have their turn. But if you take an action and I actively see that it's not going to work, I should, in the spirit of collaboration, I should say something to you. I'm like, that guard is going to catch you if you do that. And this game, again, you either just shut up completely or there is that aspect of being able to kind of, it's a little subject to alpha playing, is what I'm saying. As far as final thoughts on Burgle Bros 3, I overall really enjoyed this. I've always enjoyed the Burgle Bros games. I believe I've played the first one. I definitely played the second one a bunch. This is my first experience going ahead and diving into the third one. It has a lot of the DNA of Burgle Bros that makes it very familiar, with some slight changes to the system that are welcome changes. I don't know if I strongly like this significantly more than the last one. I think it's a small... I'd say I put it slightly above Burgle Bros 3. Burgle Bros 2, this is Burgle Bros 3. Overall, for me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. It is a solid game that is enjoyable both solo and 2-player. Again, you could play it more. I would really only play it at solo and 2. It's got a lot of replayability, different structures to it, lots of gear, lots of abilities, lots of characters, and it's one of those games that it's fun to continuously approach it and try to make your way out. It manages to have elements of the familiar from cooperative experiences while having things that make it stand out and make it a challenging experience. Overall, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, I mentioned it already, this definitely has some degree of Pandemic, so if you've played Pandemic, I think that this kind of is in line with that. If you like this game, check out Pandemic. If you like Pandemic, check out this game. And then also reminds me, vibes-wise, a little bit of The Loop. So if you like The Loop, it's another cooperative game from Pandasaurus. Again, very different experiences, but all of them have that cooperative trying to win mechanic going on, or, well, I mean, that's what a cooperative game is. All of them have the similar cooperative vibes as far as how the game works and how you're trying to power through the various objectives. And then also I mentioned this channel is sponsored by Allplay. If you enjoy their games, or I guess but that's not relevant because if you don't enjoy their games, that's the point of the segment over here. You can go to allplay.com and check out a variety of games, both from Allplay as well as their partner publishers. For this one, I'm going to recommend Alibis. It's very much a different game. It is cooperative, but it's a different kind of experience as far as how it works. Thematically, it's in the same vein, but mechanically, it's much more about trying to find compatibilities between clues that you're given and then trying to give good clues to your teammates to help you win. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.